Meeting is being recorded.
Welcome everyone to NoCoders Office Hours, episode number 306. I'm your host, Tanya, here with members Stanko, John, and Rob. I'm gonna get started in just a moment. This is your first time tuning in to NoCoders Office Hours. We do this 6 times per week where we hold Zoom sessions, invite our developer members to the Zoom sessions, and they can ask us any bubble or no-code questions they want. We do our best to get the answers. If you'd like to join us, you can go and sign up for a developer membership at pronocoders.com. Stanko, you were here first. Do you have questions?
Oh, was I? Yeah, I do have a question. If you don't mind, I'd like to share my screen. I wanted to go back to what we discussed on Friday.
Sure, perfect. Go for it.
Yeah, okay. Thanks. All right, so here, as we discussed before, I'm doing a search for all the companies.
Yes.
Right, and then I was doing a search for trucks, and wanting to do the count, which shows up here in this field here. As we talked about, when we do a search for company, I just wanted to clarify this. The browser will perform the server will perform a search of all the companies and bring back to the browser a list of companies. After that, if we search for trucks now, which is a different data type, as you mentioned, I believe that the browser needs to go back for every cell in this repeating group. The browser will need to go back to the server and perform another search of trucks, and then the browser will download this list for every cell, and then the browser will perform a count, I believe, or will the server perform the count on the server every time for every cell.
Oh, so the search. The search is happening.
This slows it down.
Yes.
Okay. So in this case, where what we did here when we split it up, now what we're doing, this is performed on the browser in this repeating group as well, but it's instead of companies, it's searching for trucks. This it's searching for trucks of every company and bringing back a list of every company's trucks to, and the browser renders this per cell in every cell. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And then
so this is a search for trucks, and it's bringing back the unique company elements across all of the trucks in your database.
Right, and this is performed on the server as well.
Yes.
Okay, so that's why it should speed it up much more than the other way that I had it.
Right, because in this one, you're not doing individual searches on each cell. You're doing one search, and then you're using a satellite data type. So the trickiness is that yes, you're understanding correctly. Like what you're saying is correct.
Yeah. And now my question is, like, now when we search because now in a data type we have in the company, this is a link to the satellite, right?
Mm-hmm.
The company has a link to it, and it is this data type that has a list of trucks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, every time we search a company, does do we bring back the list of trucks every time, or is this just a link in case we need to search this?
That's just a link in case we need to. So it's,
Okay.
yeah, so you're still doing, so there's a difference between doing a search for and putting constraints on a search of the server, and then telling the server to go and get a specific record and bring it back. We still have to go to the server, but it's a different burden. It's much lighter to say, go get me this record and its information as I need to, versus do a search for, and because then Bubble doesn't know how many things are going to match that thing, so it has to look through all of them. When you send it constraints, it has to look through all of the records to see which ones match those constraints. And so it's just the best way, the way that I would recommend to do this in your app would to go ahead and for the company, just keep a list of trucks on the company, and then you could skip the satellite data type. But I forget why you don't want to do that, but you don't want to do that. That's why we're using the satellite data type.
Right. Because I didn't want to do that, and I wanted to try to get away from lists, because I don't know if this information that I have is correct or not, is that every time now we search for a company, the list of trucks is downloaded to the browser every time that we perform a search. So a list of trucks, and then I have
so it's a list. It's a list of unique IDs.
Uh-huh.
So it's not all of the data for each of those records in the database.
Yeah, and the reason why, okay. The reason why I didn't want to do this, because I was told that if this list is more than, let's say, a couple of dozen or 50 or trucks in the company data, so this would include a list of trucks here. My list of trucks, not right now, but we're looking at over 200, 250 usually, probably would be the max to number of trucks. So every time we search for a company, I thought that the list would be downloaded, and this would slow down the app, because then I also had the list of job sites and material sites and dump sites. So in the company, I
mean, so the way that it works is here, I'll share my screen so I can explain. So what's happening when we have a list, if we go into our app data and we look at I don't know if we have any data in here, we don't. But if I have an inventory, and the inventory has a field on it, which is a list of trucks, that's how we have that set up. Then when you would go into the trucks, you would just see a unique ID, comma, a unique ID, comma, a unique ID. That's the burden of it. If you have 250 of those unique IDs coming back, is that going to slow things down? Yes, but it's not slowing it down because it's bringing all of those records. It's just slowing it down because that's a lot of text to load. So Bubble slows, like if you have a text heavy field, it can slow Bubble down in loading it. But it's not as burdensome as it's a fine line. I have had an incredibly slow page, and it was loading because there were 4 megabytes of text. But 4 megabytes of text is a lot of text. So I think that I think the way that you're doing it with having the inventory satellite data type is fine, because it says, okay, for no matter how many trucks that a company has, the burden of that field, the inventory field on a company, is just one unique ID, not 250, not 500, not, so I think the way that you have it set up is fine.
All right.
Yeah.
And in the case, if I had a list of field, then this text would be accompanied with like the truck name, the truck number, which would be more text data, even though they would be text as well. Instead of a unique ID, it would have a text of, for example, the name of the truck and the number of the truck or whatever is associated with that field. In this instance where we have a list of trucks as a link, this would return, as you're saying, as I understand it, a list of unique IDs instead of the text values. Am I correct?
Right, but that's just to make it easier for you to query the database, right? So like, I don't, just in terms of what's coming back through here, when we pull the current cells, companies, inventories, trucks, filtered count, we're saying we already know the list of records that we want you to count. Bubble. Yes. And so we're sending them the information. We already know the inventory list that we want Bubble to start with. And then, and then we can, like, we can bring that list in very quickly because we could tell Bubble, like, you don't have to go and perform a search per se. You just grab those IDs. Like, the search is just for those IDs, bring them back, and then we can filter them. So. Right,
and in the other way, if I had a list of trucks as a field in the company table, a list of trucks instead of right now a list of inventory as a list, every time we search the company, would this list be downloaded as well?
Well, the list of unique IDs would be downloaded, but their information wouldn't.
Their information,
like the information from those records wouldn't.
Right, and in the case if I did have a list, would a list be downloaded or only the information as well? So basically, what I'm saying, it to me,
I think I understand your confusion. I think I understand your confusion. Yeah, I think I understand. So what I'm saying and what you're reading in the Ultimate Guide to Bubble Performance, assuming we both, assuming I understand what it's saying, and I've had lengthy conversations with, with Juan and Eli and everyone about this, so I'm pretty confident I understand it. If I say to Bubble, if I go in here and I say do a search for something, right?
Right.
I go in here and I say, oh, I want to do a search for,
let's do a search for a company that includes a list of trucks as a field, separate from the way we have it now. Like the way I have it structured both ways. So I just wanted to look at the difference.
If I do a search for trucks, I come in here, I'm going to get a list of trucks, and I'm going to get all of this data for every truck that I searched for and came back on that list. But if I do a search for inventory and I'm getting a list of trucks, the information that I'm getting back is a list of unique IDs. I'm not getting the list of all of the truck information back for each one of those things.
Unless you're displaying that list somewhere. Unless you're displaying the list with the things attached to it, right? Right. But when I'm doing a search for it, like, I'm not saying that we're not going back to the server in each of the cells here. I'm saying that doing a whole new search in every row of a repeating group is terrible versus this. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, depends. If you're trying to create the worst performance ever, is a good thing to do. But yeah, no, don't do a search in every cell.
Yeah. So like this having a reference to something that we've already pulled is a lot easier on Bubble than going and doing a search for trucks filtered to the company per row. Right. So what I'm getting back when I do a search of inventories here, which is a list of inventories, each with their list of trucks, this is a text field depending on how many. I mean, you've seen a unique ID before, right? Yeah. So it's like however many characters.
Right.
It's like, it just that multiplied by however many trucks there are, that's the data for that row that you're pulling back.
Right. So then the difference, if I had a list of trucks as a field instead of this way, what would be the difference? If I had a list of fields, I wouldn't have to go to the server all the time, but it would download this list every time I perform a search on the company though, right?
I don't understand the question.
Okay. So in the, we still have to download a list of trucks in any case, right?
You still have to query Bubble for a list of things, but it's going to be easier for Bubble to go and grab this list versus doing a whole new search with constraints per row, because we're already giving Bubble the list here of things. It doesn't have to go and create that list. We're already sending it a list.
Yes, and if I had it set it up already in the company as a list of trucks,
right. If you had, if we did that, if we came to the company and we had a list of trucks instead.
Right. What would be the difference?
Well, so that was my recommendation, was to have a list of trucks. And so, and to me, I think that would probably be fine given where things are. I guess if you were going to have a list of 10,000 trucks on a company, then maybe I might change my mind. But a list of trucks would would be more direct, because then I could search for the companies with available trucks. And instead of doing this with the inventory list, I could just, it would look like this. I would say current sales companies, trucks, and then I would filter it. And so it's just a little bit.
Yeah, current companies list of trucks, in fact. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what is the difference then in terms of speed? Now we have both of them here. That's what I'm saying. Like, what will be the difference? Instead of using the current sales inventory, which still is a list of trucks, or having a list
I don't think the difference,
on the company itself.
I mean, we would probably have to have a lot of data, sample data to like test this and see. I don't think the difference is going to be perceptible here. I think the reason for doing the inventory satellite data type has to do whenever you're loading companies in general.
Yes. And so
it would be faster to load companies in general using the inventory satellite data type versus keeping the list of the trucks on the companies.
Right. So again, this is what I believe this answers my question, because if I left the field as a list of trucks, a list of trucks on the company, every time I searched the company, this would produce the list, even though I didn't need it. I only needed the name, for example, of the company. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then so now I do. So now when I perform a list of when I perform a search for companies, in this case, I have a choice of performing a list of the inventories, as you called it, or searching the inventory instead of downloading this list every time that I search for a company.
Right, but again, I'm not sure. It all depends on how many trucks you expect any given company to have. Like, what are the most number of trucks that you expect a company to have?
I'm saying about 200 to 300 max, probably.
200 to 300. Yeah. That doesn't seem. I mean, you can create some sample data where that's the case, and you can test here. But that's the fundamental thing. Like, I think the problem sometimes is we get a little too caught up on saying like, oh, worrying about the future, but that is for the future to worry about, right? Like, let's get you to the point where you're concerned about the speed of loading your repeating group, because you have companies with 300 trucks and it's slowing down. Like, there's a reason to talk about future proofing and scalability and all of that from the beginning, but it's also like, but you have to ship your product, right? Like, you have to get it out of the door, and then you come back and you fix problems as they come up and as it's needed.
Tonya, I could not disagree with you more. There are many nights out where people have been, Callum, you need to stop drinking. You're going to feel it in the morning. I'm like, that's future Callum's problem to deal with. I'll let him deal with it. And I wake up in the morning, I'm like, that was a terrible decision.
Yeah, but if we're talking about the difference of 6 months between now and 6 months future, then okay, yes, I agree with you, Callum. You should be worried about whether or not you want to have a hangover the next morning as you're drinking.
Hi, everyone.
But hi, Callum. But I think I think go with the inventory satellite data type, just because you've already considered it and it is a concern, and it's not going to hurt you to have that satellite data type.
It's not going to hurt, right? Okay.
But what is hurting, I think, is spending too much time so concerned over the decision that it's taking you time to get your next iteration of your product done. So I would limit that. I would limit how much time I spend worried about it, and understand that you are going to have to refactor your app. There's no two ways about it. That's normal. It's par for the course. At some point, you're going to want to do something with your app that you did not anticipate in the beginning, and it's going to require you to go back and make changes to your database. And so instead of trying to prevent that from happening, we make the best decision that, like, with the information that we have at the given time, and we move forward with that and don't worry too much about the refactoring part.
All right. Okay.
I spend all of my time worrying about refactoring when I'm scoping my project.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll go with that then. And I'm going to leave it at that. I've already set up the data, so I can do it both ways. The database is already set up with the satellite type dish or dish. And so let somebody else go, and then maybe tomorrow night I'll just I'm going to have questions on how to populate this data table now.
Okay.
I believe it should be on the CSV form or somehow, and so this is the next thing. We'll leave that for next time. Then I just want to populate it and then keep it up to date, because it'll involve workflows, but also we briefly talked on Friday that we could use a recursive workflow, and I just want to get a little bit more information on that. So I think we can do that tomorrow night.
Awesome. That sounds great.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Dan.
John, you were next. Do you have questions today?
Yeah, and I promise you they will be a bit simpler than that, hopefully.
No worries. It's a good conversation to have.
Yeah, no,
understanding how the database works is like.
I'm still slightly mystified by the bubble database and the way it works. A few things. So I noticed you've redesigned this, by the way. It looks very nice.
Thank you, Pablo.
You're truncating. You're missing the M of PM and AM. Is the only thing I did spot.
Can you not tell the difference, John?
Hey?
Can you not tell the difference?
I can tell the difference. I just thought it looked a bit weird. 6p.
It does look a little weird.
That's the cost of it. That's the cost of the session, John. Only John will get that
joke. Right. Let me move everybody out.
But are the times there in your, like, those are accurate, right?
Yeah. So it is. We did start at 6 p.m. Yeah.
Okay, good.
So couple of things to show. I was going to show you something else and I can't remember what now. So I've got this working, by the way. So you know how you were helping me with this the other day, where we're doing the CTR performance. So how does this CTR perform against an industry average CTR based on your rank? That is now working, and it's all real data and stuff. And it's actually
beautiful.
Yeah, it's actually very interesting because, well, I'll say it's probably of interest to me and bugger all interest to anyone else. But if you look at, say, how to split your, because this is real data, right? So how to split your product description in Shopify, I've got 0 clicks, but 7 impressions. If I change the date range, it'll probably help. So how to split your product, I've got 0 clicks, but 27 impressions, but I'm ranking first. So I should be getting clicks, but I'm underperforming 100%. So it's actually really useful because, and I've also gone ahead and changed these queries to links. So if I click that link, it will actually take me through to the Google listing for that phrase. And what I can see now is the reason I'm not performing is because some bastard's got the featured snippet above me. So I am I'm ranking number 1, which is how Google does its ranking, because they don't include this in their ranking. So it's actually very useful. Anyway, so I did that, and it gave me the chance, because the math for doing this calculation was a little bit more complicated than we did in our example. But it meant I had to use the new parenthesis feature in Bubble that they launched last week, was it? So that was good.
What? I didn't hear about this. I heard about a lot of new features last week, but I did not hear about the new parentheses.
They have been, I'll show you. They've been rolling all sorts of stuff out recently. So if you go into here and you go appearance, you can see brackets.
That's amazing.
So it's in the, you have to go in and set it here. So they've got this new experimental features thing. So you have to say which experimental features you want to include.
Perfect.
So yeah, so you can now do parentheses. The only thing I don't like about it, and I might raise a query, is it might just be me, but it's difficult to tell. You can't actually type the parenthesis in yourself, so you can't put open bracket, then what you want, close bracket, etc.
No, you have to choose it from the menu.
Well, yeah, and it sort of automatically does it for you. You just type this in and it automatically wraps it in what it thinks the correct parentheses are. And it got it right, which I don't quite know how it guessed right, but it did. So that's a bit weird, but it works. So yeah, so that was really good.
That's very cool.
Yeah, if they could only being able to sort a bloody repeating group based on calculated values, I'd be happy.
Right? Because that was my question to you, was like, I think you said that we could do that with List Shifter, and I've been trying to figure it out, and I'm like, I'm stuck.
Yeah, yes, so you can do it with List Shifter, and I can show you, well, better than me show you, is Keith can show you, because someone has asked him they haven't directly asked him that question, but his answer to the question does show you how to do it. And he did that a couple of days ago. It's complicated in the usual Keith style, but I can point you to where he's answered it. But basically, you have to do process list in. So what you have to do is take your original list shifter list, and then in the back end, use the process list function to create a new list shifter list, which has these newly calculated values in it. And then that's the list you sort on, because then you're holding a list shifter list with all the values you need in it. That's how you have to do it.
That's how I figured, but I was having trouble getting it done.
Yeah.
So
he's done a really detailed explanation like a couple of days ago for someone on how to do that process list function on a list and do calculations and stuff. I was reading it the other day, but I haven't actually implemented that yet.
Okay.
But I will have to tackle it for something like this.
Sure. Awesome. Well, maybe I'll know by then and I can help you.
Well, yeah, that would be great if you can work out, because Keith's explanation is very long-winded.
I have paid for an hour of his time. I just haven't heard back yet. So
right. No, that's good. What was I going to say to you? I know what I was going to show you. So, quick question, I think. So, on my login page, I have a reset password link, and the reset password. So, this is more me checking that I'm doing this right. When you hit the reset password, it pops a pop-up and it says, put your email in. Where do you want to submit it? Or where do you want to send it? When I do start edit workflow, it goes in and says, schedule an API workflow, which is send password, reset email, current date time, input reset passwords value. Now, there's a few questions I got about this. One is, I assume I need to put in here only when that input email's reset password value matches the current user's actual email, registered email. Because otherwise, no. Does Bubble do something?
No, because they're not, because they're when they click to reset their password, generally they're not logged in.
Are they? Okay. So I'm going to so I could put any email address in and then get sent a password to that email address.
Well, only if that user is registered. So this is interesting because it brings up a security issue, which is why when you, if you enter, a lot of times when you go to reset the password after you say, okay, send me the reset password to this email, they'll say, if there is an email in our database that matches, you will receive an email to reset your password.
Yeah.
Because they won't tell you if there is or not.
Yeah,
yes,
they do. If you put in an incorrect email address, it says this user doesn't exist. I thought, doesn't it? I thought that's why when I set mine up.
A user with these credentials doesn't exist, but it doesn't say the email specifically because it could be the email or the password, right?
Yeah, but if you're doing a reset password and you put in the email address and you click reset password, it will say there's no user matching this email address.
Bubble does that automatically, does it?
Yeah, I believe so. Let me check it on mine, but that's what happened when I set mine up, I think.
Well,
I think that's probably a bad idea.
Yeah, that kind of leads me to the next question then, which is, so that says, okay, go off and send that email. And then the email is in here. So send password, reset email. Now, there is, ignore this for a minute. In here, there is this thing, account, send password, reset email. I assume that, and this is my guess, I assume I can't use that because that is the built-in SendGrid one, and I'm not using SendGrid. Is that right?
Okay. So what you do is you send password reset, but you see where it says just make token, don't send email. So if you check that box and do the send password reset email, do that step first, then you can send the token through as part, I have never done this before, but as part of the Postmark send email. And that way you can send it through Postmark, but you can use the token from Bubble.
Right.
Please forgive me, I was clearly talking bollocks because it has just sent an email to an email address that doesn't exist and didn't notify me. Maybe it was something else it happened with.
Yep.
I'm going to say it'd be a good way of finding all the email addresses in your database, wouldn't it, potentially?
Well, you have to go through every single email address that was wrong to find out.
Yeah.
I broke Canvas once because my privacy rules won't let people see the email addresses of anybody who's logged out, and I couldn't get it to work, and they were like, oh yeah, that's because of your privacy rules, but your privacy rules are good, so we're going to change Canvas for you. I was like, thanks.
They changed Bubble as well, because surely if you can do that, it's a Bubble issue as well, right?
Well, I mean, technically you control that. You can control whether or not logged out users can query the database for other users and stuff through privacy rules. So what it was is I had it so that nobody could see if you were logged out, you couldn't see anything about the user at all. And the way that Canvas was working at the time, it had the email address was checked as something a logged out user could see. I was like, but that doesn't make any sense. because it meant technically they could query your database and get a list of all of the users' emails. And it's like, you don't want to expose that. So
weird.
Yeah.
So I take it I don't need to put anything, because I'm not sending an email. I don't need to put anything in here. And then
No, you do, because the token is going to be, you do want to put the email to reset in there, because the token is going to be related to a specific email.
So, okay. So what do I put in there? So if I put email, isn't it? So what is that email then? If
that's the email. That email, if you click on the workflow, the API workflow, it's the email is the parameter that you sent in.
So I'm passing that, fine. Okay, so it's passing the right value in. Okay, and then in this next step, I need to, so where I'm putting this link here as an example, I need to reference step 1's token.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that. I've never done it before, but we should probably figure that out. But yes, that's how that works. I can probably backhack it from Canvas, because Canvas does that. Let me see.
Okay. Yeah, because it's not giving me anything obvious to say token, is it?
Let's go here and
You want to share? Shall I stop sharing my screen and you share yours? Is that easier?
Sure. So in Canvas, I just did an action search where I found a send password reset email. So in this step 4 of this particular workflow, we're sending password reset email, and we're just making the token don't send the email. So now we have to figure out pop-up manual. I don't know what I'm looking at. Let's see the other one, email workflows. Okay, so this is a reusable that we have. And send basic email, that's what we want. Although you would do it differently because you're not using the same plugin with Postmark. But the button here, results of step 1's email template include button. Results of step 3, send password. Yeah, so webset. So this is how they're doing it. So they have the step, because down at the bottom here, button link, website, reset password, reset equals to result of step 3, send password. This is the step 3. So you take the result of this action when you have this check mark. That's what gives you access to the results of step 3.
Yeah.
And it looks like the parameter that you're looking for is reset equals that token value.
Right. Okay. Okay. All right. Can work that out. Yeah. So I'm looking for reset equals.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. Let me just screenshot that while I've got it up on the thingy. Hold on a minute.
Sure. And I can also, I'll send you the link in the chat.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Okay. That's quite, I was wondering how they were doing it. So that's cool.
Yep. I've learned a lot by backhacking Canvas.
Yeah, I've got it installed on a test app, and at some point I keep meaning to have a proper look through how they do certain things.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Adam, welcome.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
So I have a question that is about social media feed, essentially. So I'm trying to figure out a way to make it so that when someone scrolls past some sort of media, right? So I have Spotify embeds, I have YouTube going, Vimeo, when they scroll past it, the HTML ends up being blank. So I think that would be a condition probably, you know, on the actual HTML, but I would like it to be that, you know, when this item is, when the page position, I'm trying to think about like whether this is a page position condition.
When the cell is visible, you mean, to the user within their screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've tried this before. I did find I tried to do it again recently, but I couldn't find the plugin I used. Let me have another quick look.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say this doesn't sound like something you would do in native Bubble. It sounds like something you would do with a plugin. I mean, I think we could probably do it with native Bubble, but it'd probably eat up all of your capacity really fast.
So the only one I could, so I did this. Do you remember? I think
Yep,
we did it
I remember.
when I wanted to play the video or something, or it was something like that. And I got Active Cell, which is a plugin, but I tried that the other day and I couldn't get it working. But I would give that one a go. So you put the cell element in there, and the event is a cell is active. But I swear I had to use it with another one, but I can't find the other one I used. Oh, hang on. There we go. Repeating group visibility detector. That one.
All right. Active cell repeating group visibility detector. Okay, great. Thank you so much. And Tanya, I'm just curious about what you meant with it would eat up my capacity. Like, do you mind just letting me know what you meant by that? Is it because there would be an extra condition on it and that would eat up capacity?
Yeah, because you'd be running workflows and stuff on things. I assume like what you're wanting to do is probably track what they've seen versus what they haven't. Yeah.
It wouldn't necessarily be tracking what they see. It would more so, you know what, doesn't matter. I'm going to try this out. Thank you.
Yeah. Callum, questions?
Not really. Just came to cheer myself up a bit. I had a bit of a shit day.
Oh.
Ended with so I went to see CBI today, Confederation of British Industry, and it turns out we've mispriced their proposal by about 30 grand because CRM went terribly wrong. So I had to tell my chief commercial officer, which was like getting my balls stuck in a cheese grater. It was kind of that much fun.
I'm sorry.
I know. But it's all good. Still getting there.
Glad you're here.
I'm glad I'm here as well. It's very much cheered me up.
Good. Awesome. John, is it my turn? It's my turn. Do you want to see if we can get it to work? List shifter to work on mine?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. All right. I want to open it.
I will open Keith's post so that we can have someone to actually.
So I have. Let's go back. Well, let me. Oh, it's okay. I'll open it up again. Okay. So I have this part. I have what I want working in terms of figuring out the count that I want to sort by, but of course I can't. How do you get that? So I'm going to put list shifter on here instead.
And how many rows have you got in that repeating group?
Just a few.
What's the worst case? Because I'm just thinking, because there is another way of doing it, which is possibly easier, but let's see how you get on with list shifter, because that would be useful. But I've been looking at this for a while. There's two ways of doing it. One is list shifter and one is the BDK thing.
Yeah, so I have BDK in here and I can get a list, but I don't know how to like re-merge that list into what I want.
Okay.
So like to be able to do the sort on. So I have BDK's repeating group extractor and data things set up. So I can grab this. Essentially what I'm doing is I have a list of products and I'm doing a search, and it pulls up all of the things that are overlapping with my keywords here.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and it's inclusive because it keeps adding things as I go, right? But I want to order it by the number of overlaps. So this particular result overlaps with my keywords 3 times because I have this separate list of like, I want the Bermuda shorts and Bermuda shorts. And that's what I have in my keywords here. And now I want to order this list. It's just by luck that this one happens to be on top. Because if I do this with Hawaiian shirt, then it's at the bottom and I want this one to be on top.
Yeah. So, but can you not, before we go to this shift, can you not, I thought with the BDK thing, you could get that value of 1, 1, and 3 out of the repeating group into BDK, and then you can just sort on the list as it's held in BDK?
Well, I can get, so maybe I need to combine it because I have this data here and the column is the base product and the column 2 is the number.
Mm-hmm.
But then how do I zip those back together so I can order it by the number?
Yeah, I was just because I saved a post from the BDK guy where he was explaining to someone how to do this with BDK. The reason I didn't do it with BDK is because I've got pagination on mine, and BDK only works on the visible cell, so it wouldn't work.
Well, I'm going to need pagination as well. So.
Oh, right. Okay, forget it then, because it doesn't work if you're paginating. So you need list shifter. Then.
Yeah. Okay. So I did install list shifter, and so I put list shifter, and I can grab. I mean, essentially, this is exactly what I want. Like the data is going to be base product. The list to shift is this list. And then, so now I guess I need to process this list.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I would say, like, is there a particular workflow that I need to?
Yeah, so it's in the back end of list shifter. So if you go and edit that list shifter thing.
So the start edit workflow?
Yeah. Then create an action. You should see under element actions, you should see you've got a load of list shifter stuff.
Yep. And so I want process
list. I'm just looking at what Keith is writing, because I'm trying to find the one where he answered it. Because he explains, because the thing with list shifter that I always find confusing is all of these operands that he's got. Some of them are fairly obvious and some of them are not, to me anyway. And he explains in here somewhere which operand you need.
I mean, I started at the top and I got through a lot of his videos the other night, but I was like, oh, there are 400 different replies. I was like, I can't watch all of these videos to find what I'm looking for.
Let me find it.
Which is why we did searchable, like time-stamped videos in our vault, by the way.
Yeah. So I think, okay, so I'm looking at it now. You might have to read through Keith's sort of last 10 posts on his group because he goes backwards and forwards, this guy. So
in the forums?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can put you the link in to see if you're finding it. And I'm on the one from, I'm just looking, he starts chatting to the guy about it.
This one, yeah, 462.
Yeah, he starts chatting to the guy a bit before what I've sent you, I think. And the guy's asking him how to sort of perform calculations on cells and stuff and get list shifter to create a new list. And then Keith's on about using, apart from doing the math calculation, which is, I think, fairly straightforward, he's on about using, for the operand, he's talking about using list shifter's list type constant. There, yeah. Which is apparently the list that you're interested in or something.
Oh, got it. Okay. Yeah, because that makes sense, because that's the part that I'm having trouble doing, is tying in, because I can get the number and I can get the list of the base products, but like, how do I tie the number to each base product so I can sort by it?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, cool. I will check this out, and then I'll see if I can round him up for an hour. If anybody's watching, he calls it karmaware, and you can clear your karma by sending him money.
Yeah.
And so I sent him the amount, like whatever, for an hour of his time. So we'll see.
No, that's really good. You'll have to get him to do a stint on
Who?
NoCoders.
Yeah, just like Gaurav and Callum's face.
If only someone had asked him nicely and he'd said yes, and I said, no worries, the person who runs NoCoders will be in touch. And then they never got in touch.
Ah, okay. I've opened up an old subject.
But the person who runs NoCoders never said that they would get in touch. They just said, yes, you tell me when he's coming on.
I did. When you get in touch with him.
Yeah. Well, when you speak to him directly, Tanya, you'll have to ask him, because I mean, list shifter is very powerful, but learning how to use the more complex bits is definitely an art.
Yes. Well, I mean, as far as I can tell from what I was watching, because I started way at the top of this list, like post number 1 out of 400 something.
Yeah, I've read the whole thread.
Yeah, and I started at the top and I was watching his videos, and to me, this is like the next best thing to learning JavaScript.
Yeah.
Because he's essentially making it possible for you to do a bunch of JavaScript in Bubble through this plugin.
Yeah.
So yeah, awesome. Thank you. All right. We're going to move into after hours, and I'm going to try not to be seedy about it, because Callum thinks I make it sound so gross or whatever. No, it's not gross, but it is private. And if you want to join the private conversation, you do have to belong to NoCoders. Go to pronocoders.com and sign up for a developer membership right away. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you